Hi, everybody. Today is not going to be a normal episode. I am actually going back and remastering episode 1. So, in episode 1, I hadn't learned how to do a lot of the more fine tuning audio editing. So, think of this as a remastered interview with Ben Circo. I hope you enjoy. Hi, welcome to Curious Joel, a show about curiosity taking us deeper into the topics of people's passion and interesting conversation. I'm your host, Joel Circo. All right, so for today, I have a guest, and his name is Ben Circo. He's actually my younger brother. Ben, introduce what you do.
Hey, thank you for having me. So I am a professional balloon artist. I make balloon animals for birthday parties, school events, carnivals, all sorts of events. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so how did you get into balloon twisting?
Now, that's a fun story. Before I got into it, actually, it's have to take you back a year before I got into it.
Okay.
So I was at a conference. I didn't really have any workshops that pertained to me, nothing interesting for me. So I went to this workshop on balloons. Sounded fun, so I went to it. They taught us how to make like a sword, a dog, maybe a couple other things. I don't remember exactly. I do remember that a sword was the first thing that I learned how to make. A pirate sword, if anybody knows the difference.
Okay.
And he said that only 10% of the people in the entire world could blow up a balloon by mouth. Now, for those people who know me, I love a challenge, so I took it as a challenge. I went home, taught myself how to do it in one afternoon. My cheeks hurt. The whole body hated me, but I did it. So that's why I learned how to blow up a balloon, even before I was interested in them.
Okay.
And then about roughly a year later, I was at a camp.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a little ministry that they do called YMI Youth Missions International. You know, a little shout out to them. They do a little ministry. So during the week of camp, they go out onto the town for an hour or two and do some fun stuff. And people who know me today don't believe this. They don't believe this about me, but I am shy. I'm not as shy as I used to be. I used to be extremely shy. People today don't realize this. They don't believe me when I tell them, but I was. And I didn't want to be out in front. I didn't want to be on the stage. I didn't want to be next to the stage. I didn't want to be behind the stage. I didn't want to be at the back of the audience. So they had a few different options. One of them was doing balloons. I was like, all right, sweet. In my mind, balloons are way over there, completely away from the stage.
Yeah.
It was literally about 50 feet away, 50 to 100 feet away from the stage.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, cool. I'll be completely away from it because I do want to help out, but I don't want to be in the limelight at all. So I started doing them. They didn't have enough pumps for everybody, so I ended up blowing them by mouth the whole day. It was fun, though. And after that, I just fell in love with balloons after that. The week after I got back from camp was my birthday party. And I remember specifically going to Walmart and finding a bag of 20 twisting balloons, brought them to my birthday party, made a few things, and then my oldest brother, John, actually got me a bag of 144. 144.
That's kind of oddly specific. It's like, we were going to go with 3, but we changed our mind at the last second. We added that extra balloon. Bam, bang for your buck.
Yeah, and I still remember the exact number.
All right.
So he gave me a bag of 144 balloons.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went at it. I really just fell in love with it and just had fun with it. And it kind of just went from there.
Okay, so that's kind of like how you got hooked on it.
Yeah.
So you are a professional balloon artist, right?
Yep.
So you got hooked through camp and through a gift, right? But you at some point it went from this is a fun thing to do to I'm now making money doing this. What changed that? What got you to go pro?
Okay. So where we left off, I was 14 years old when that happened. And honestly, I don't remember the exact moment that, something clicked. I can't pinpoint an exact moment, but I do know that I was, trying to figure out after I was messing around with balloons for a few months, and I think it was about 2 months, and I was trying to figure out what I could do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd heard about, farmer's market, how some balloon artists go to farmer's market. I was looking at balloon forums online. I was watching YouTubers. I was finding, anywhere I could find someone doing balloons, I was looking into it online. And I heard about a farmer's market. So went to go check it out. Brought some bag or maybe 2 bags of balloons, which at that point I was like, man, 2 bags of balloons. Man, I got a ton here.
Okay, really quick. So you laugh at that. Why is that funny? Just really quick, explain why that's funny.
Well, so I've got an apron now that I carry all my balloons in. Well, I don't carry all the balloons when I'm going out to a gig. I have an apron.
Mm-hmm.
And the apron holds about 2,000 balloons.
Okay.
and then, hang on, I got another 2,000 to 4,000 balloons back at home in boxes to refill it with.
So about how many bags do you normally get now?
In one purchase, I would say that I probably get. Give me 1 second.
Okay, take your time.
Probably about 40 to 50 bags of balloons.
Okay. All right. So now your normal is 40 to 50. So 2 at that time is a minuscule amount comparatively. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Back then, each bag of balloons was like I'm buying a whole bag.
Gotcha. All right. So continue.
So I went to the farmer's market, and I was my plan was to make balloons. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I was just going to bring them, and I was going to make balloons. I didn't really have much more than a plan than that.
All right.
My mom took me because, I was 14. I couldn't drive or anything.
Yeah.
So she took me there, and she knew someone who had a booth there selling, I don't even remember what it was. It might have been quilts or some sort of fabric, something. I don't remember exactly. So I went and I saw a guy there making balloons, believe it or not. Okay. His name is Bill, or his work name is Sunny Sunshine.
All right.
And he's a balloon artist. His wife is a face painter. They've actually been doing it for years. But yeah, so I saw him. I talked to him a little bit, and he gave me a couple pieces of advice. I remember the first 2 things that he told me. Well, first, he asked me, there was a question he asked me, and that was if I had insurance or not.
Wait, was that like the first day you met him?
That was on the first day. It probably wasn't the first thing he said, but it was in our first conversation. He asked me if I had insurance.
So that was like your first professional question asked at you is like, do you have insurance?
Yeah.
Not like, do you do part? No. Do you have insurance? All right.
Well, this was from another balloon artist. It was. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he asked me about insurance. I was like, no, I didn't. I was like, why do I need insurance?
I've been doing this for exactly 5 minutes.
Yeah, give or take. And I was like, no. He was like, well, you need insurance, and he kind of explained why. So if a child pops a balloon in their mouth, you have the potential for a child to choke on it and die. Now, it very rarely happens. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard of that actually happening. And
but it's a possibility, and that's what insurance is all about, is the possibility of something going wrong.
Yeah, it also covers things such as if I was at a party and I pull in with my car and I knock over a planter, it'll cover that. Or,
gotcha.
God forbid, emotional damage happens. It even covers that. And it covers a plethora of other things as well.
Gotcha.
And most insurance for entertainers, it covers, up to $1 million. And I was like, $1 million? I'm like, well, what? Why that much?
Well, okay, I got a question. Like, what kind of entertainment are we talking? Are we talking about like sword swallowers and like fire breathers? Because
so actually, the insurance that I get it from, I use specialty insurance. They're amazing. They were made. It was originally made by a clown, so it's made for entertainers by entertainers, more or less.
Uh-huh.
So So they have magicians, balloon artists, clowns, jugglers, tightrope walkers. I'm not sure if they have sword swallowers or not.
Mm-hmm.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Gotcha.
I'd have to check their website. They might though.
Okay. So like they cover a wide range of things, and that's why like the insurance can cover so much.
Well, the insurance it doesn't cost that much, but it covers that much because if a child were to die, you can't really put a price tag on that. That's how he explained it to me.
Mm.
But it also covers damages, someone falling off the stage, breaking, twisting their ankle. It covers everything really.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so that was his question to me. Then the other thing that he made me do, and this was first conversation with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think most people are aware that the two simplest things for balloon artists to make is a dog and a sword.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows how to make a dog. I think a lot of people that I talk to, like sometimes in their college years, they, made balloon animals for like a month or something.
Yeah.
Well, he told me, make a dog. I was like, all right, whatever. I'll make a dog, no biggie, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'll make the dog. And then he says, all right, now take it apart. And I'm going to teach you how to really make a dog or something along those lines.
Okay.
Yeah. So what he did was he had me basically lock it in. So when you make a balloon animal, like a dog, it's really easy to unravel.
Okay. So it kind of like unfolds.
Yeah.
You twist it up and it untwists.
So he taught me how to lock it in. So you can try to untwist it, but unless you know how to unlock it, which is not something that's super easy to do. I mean, if you know what you're doing, it's pretty easy to do. It doesn't take very long.
Okay.
But that way the younger kids don't just easily take their...
So it doesn't accidentally come apart. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. So that was the second thing he had me do, or I forget exactly which one he had me do first, but yeah.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So he kind of he's like, here's the things you need to know right off the bat. Just...
Oh yeah, just hit me hard with them.
All right. Gotcha. And then from there, you kind of just grew. Like, how did that growth progress in short terms?
Right. So I got to see him a few different times, and I actually went back to the farmer's market several times to make balloons.
Mm-hmm.
As any 14-year-old who got a new business idea in their mind, I made up business cards. My mom helped me. We made up some business cards, printed them out at home, cut them by hand, and I'd handed them out to everybody at church, all my friends, family, everybody, anybody. Hey, do you want a business card? Well, more or less as much as a shy person would do. So basically everybody I knew.
Gotcha.
Fast forward a couple months, and my uncle, he actually works as a caterer.
Okay.
And I'd seen him at, I want to say it was Thanksgiving or Easter. I don't remember. Some family gathering. I saw him there. And this was, just shortly after that. So I gave him a business card, like I gave the rest of my family at the same event. And anyways, he gave me a call or an email, I don't remember. He gave me a call and said, hey, I've got an event in San Diego and they need a balloon artist. So he knew the person who was planning the event. It wasn't his event, but he knew the person who was planning the event, said they needed a balloon artist. I was like, oh, sweet. So this right here is my first gig.
Gotcha.
So in my mind, I was ready to charge practically nothing.
Really quick, back up for just a second.
Sure.
You said your first gig. What does that mean?
All right. So a gig, that's an event, a party, whatever it is. It's an event where I'm doing balloons, just like a band or any other entertainer.
So a concert for a concert would be a gig for a band.
Stand-up comedian. They have a gig.
Live shows.
They're going to go to a live show.
Okay. Just in case people don't know what it is, I just want to make sure people are on board and understanding gigawatt, gigabyte,
right.
Okay, so is your first official event as a professional balloon artist?
Yes.
Gotcha.
So it's in San Diego. It's a school carnival, and as a 14-year-old, I wanted to charge around $15-20 an hour, which I thought was a lot, and to some people that does sound like a lot. And we can get into that in a minute.
Okay.
But he was like, no. he was like, he completely shut me down. He was like, no, charge a minimum. So it was a 3-hour event. I'm pretty sure it was a 3-hour event. And he said, minimum $300. So my uncle said, don't do that. You're selling yourself short. $300 minimum for this event. And I was like, $300? You gotta be kidding me. Yeah, I'm a 14-year-old and I'm like, $300. But I did it. I did $300 and they didn't bat an eye. They were like, all right, cool.
and then it kind of just hit you, was like, wow, $300 just whoop.
I still didn't even believe it, honestly.
Okay.
So the very next thing I did was I got insurance. So I got the insurance taken care of, and jumped right into it. My mom drove me down. Somewhere along the lines before we got to this point, we had made my first balloon apron, which held, I don't know, I want to say about 600 balloons or something, give or take.
So it's like roughly like a third-ish of what you're... not even.
Yeah, maybe like a fifth of what I was working with, or, give or take.
What you currently work with. You mean.
Yeah. So I got the stuff. I went down there and had fun. It was a lot of fun. People coming up to me. I would make whatever, really, because I don't think I made a menu yet at that point. So
what do you mean by a menu?
So a lot of balloon artists and face painters too, and I'm sure other entertainers as well, they work off menus. So instead of just I want this. No. Oh, look at the menu. Oh, I'm making a dog, a monkey, a flower, a horse. These are your options.
So why exactly do you do that? What's the point in the menu versus just... Because I mean,
that's a good question.
It could be seen as easier to just like, hey, come up with whatever idea you have, get it painted on your face, or make that balloon. Just like, hey, can I have a Godzilla?
That's actually a great question. One that people do talk about a little bit in the balloon community. They talk about menus and what events you should use them for and what you shouldn't. Generally, the general consensus, I would say, is if it's a large event, you're going to use a menu. Okay. So, and I say large event, I'm saying like a school event or carnival.
Okay.
Somewhere you got 100 plus people.
Gotcha.
That's definitely a large event, and you want to have a menu. That way people aren't going to sit there for an hour trying to figure out what they want, or they're going to ask for something and you're like, oh, well, I don't have time to do that because they're asking for something that takes too long to make.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like going to a fast food restaurant and asking them to make a gourmet dinner that takes like a steak. It's like, that's going to take a while. I can't do this in this time. And I got people.
Exactly. You got to keep the line moving.
Okay. So like smaller events, you do more of the, what do you want, and have a little bit more room for creativity.
True. So me personally, at a small event, I hardly ever use a menu, but some balloon artists prefer to use a menu even for small events. And that's just how they work. And there's over on the small events, there's a little bit of debate. Honestly, for me, it's if you want to use a menu, use a menu. If I want to use a menu, I'll use a menu. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's small events, I'd rather just go at it. And if there's something that I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't have time to make that, the life-size Millennium Falcon. Sorry.
Gotcha.
Call me back later. We'll work something out. By the way, if anybody wants me to do that, we can talk. It might take a few days to make it, though.
Okay. All right. So you said you weren't working off of a menu at the moment you got your first gig, right?
I don't think so. Okay. I mean, it has been a few years.
Okay.
But I don't think I had a menu. I was just doing whatever people came up and they were like, hey, can you make it? Like, sure. Let's go for it.
Okay. So after you got your like very first professional gig, kind of like give us a sped up timeline of what steps happened to get to you to where you are now. Like,
sure. So I started doing a couple more gigs, kind of very spread out. A year or two later, I want to say 1 year, about around 1 year later, give or take. I landed my first restaurant gig. So a restaurant gig is nice because it's a weekly thing usually. So I would come in every week on a certain day. I started on Thursday. No, I started on Wednesdays. I I distinctly remember it was Wednesdays. So Stadium Pizza in San Jacinto. I would go there every Wednesday night. I would make balloons from around 5:30 till 9. Did that every week. The day that I go changed. For a while it was Mondays and Thursdays, and it's changed. Obviously, right now.
Now
that's a different story. We can get
there's a lot of things that are a different story right now, but
yeah. But
before
I did
this,
that. Pre-COVID, I had 2 different restaurants that I was in regularly, and a third one that I get in every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't a regular thing.
Gotcha.
Doing birthday parties, mostly weekly. I work with some other entertainers. I have a few different people that I work with. I got a face painter, Eve Soto. If you need a face painter, check her out on Instagram, Eve Soto. She's amazing. I've done plenty of stuff with her, a lot of events with her. I've got a couple other people that I've worked with, agents and other people that I've worked with, and they were like, "Hey, are you free this day?" I'm like, what time?
So, really quick, just quick description of what exactly does an agent do?
So, an agent is someone who they basically connect. Like, oh, you need a party? You got a party, and you have a party, and you need some entertainment for that. Like, all right, what do you need? You need a bounce house. You need food. You need a balloon artist. You need decor. All right, I'll get that for you. Here's the price. Then they go and they're like, all right, you're a food vendor. Hey, can you do this party? Hey, you're a balloon artist. Can you do? And they basically connect the people.
Gotcha.
Makes it a one-stop shop, more or less.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So I have a few agents. I don't work for them directly, but they do reach out to me if they need someone. I also have one or two party stores, jumper rental places,
mm-hmm.
and they also have my card, and they'll hit me up. I'm like, hey, one of my clients, they want a balloon artist. They get me. I also just have my own business cards that I pass out, and a lot of people will just call me directly. Some people from the restaurants that I work, we got about a lot of regulars there. I do stuff for them. I've got several gigs that I do regularly every year. Some school events that I do every year. Yeah.
All right, moving on a little bit. What is your favorite part of balloon twisting, balloon art?
I guess it would be probably 2 things.
Okay.
One of them is just interacting with the children. I like working with kids. I've been volunteering and working with kids since I was 13 or 14, and I just connect really well with children.
Mm-hmm.
The other part is the creativity that balloons allow me. So
okay, yeah, I'm assuming that it's kind of pretty important for any sort of party workers to be able to work well with kids.
Yeah, that's generally a pretty good
I
thing.
feel like that's a pretty standard. Like, here's the first thing: work with kids well. Then we'll see everything else.
Yeah, I've met one that doesn't really, they kind of just tolerate it because they really love the other aspects of it.
The creativity, or like,
well, the creativity, the performance.
Gotcha.
But they don't really they don't necessarily work well with children. They just make it work.
Gotcha.
And it's not quite the same, but they make it work.
Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the other part really quick. The creativity. What? Just kind of go into that for a second.
All right. Well, so I got a pretty good imagination. Growing up, I used my imagination probably more than anything else. Where other kids grew up playing with video games and stuff like that, I grew up in the backyard playing imagination, building world and whatnot. So I'm very creative. I like to build stuff with my mind. I like to design things. So like when it comes to balloons, sometimes I can completely design a brand new creation I've never made before, do it all in my mind don't even touch a balloon, figure it out in my mind, and then go grab a balloon, just do it exactly how I imagined it, and it works perfectly the first time. Now, it doesn't happen every time, mind you, but I can do that.
So I got a question
Sure.
about that, just because there have been quite a few things that you're saying stuff, and I don't work with balloons. Is that something that's standard for like a lot of balloon artists can just create new designs, or is that something that is that par for the course, and we're just like everyone else is like, oh, I couldn't even begin to do that, or is that like something that's a little more unique, or how would you place that?
Right. From my experience, I think it's fairly unique. Actually, there's a handful of balloon artists. I haven't met them personally myself, but most of the balloon artists that I've met, they can't do that. They can to some extent, but not to the degree that I do it. There's a handful of balloon artists that I'm aware of, that I know people who know.
Gotcha.
And they can do that too, and probably even better than me. I haven't met them, so I can't say for sure. But they just design it. So like when I try to design a new creation, someone that challenges me to make something brand new, I'm like, all right, I look at a picture, and then I just go for it. A lot of other balloon artists will look at a picture, search, find out if somebody else has done it, and most of the time, unless someone else has already done it, it's a lot harder for them to figure it out.
Okay, all right. So I've got a separate question, or not a separate question, I guess the other side of that. So obviously you're not the only creative person in your field.
No, not by a long shot.
So, and these people that look up the designs for like the blueprints for these other designs, like they came from somewhere. So what would be your guess? Or if you know, how do those artists come up with these designs? Because they come from somewhere, obviously. So
Right.
somebody along the line did that, whether they did it the same way you did it, or what would be the other process that someone would go about designing a new balloon creation?
One way that I know some people do it, and I usually don't do this myself, they just take a shape. They make a shape out of a balloon, and then they basically like, all right, what does this shape look like? And they'll go from there. Some balloon artists do it that way. I don't work very well like that. I can, but I know that several of the balloon artists that create tutorials, because that's a huge thing in the balloon artist community is tutorials. I know a lot of them, they just go at it. I haven't met a lot of them personally.
So sorry, I'm not quite following you. So what do you mean by they make a shape and they just kind of go from there? Are you saying like they have a bunny and they're like, here's a roughly bunny shape, let me shape it a little better? Or are you saying like they just like, I made a shape, this kind of looks like a bunny?
Actually both.
Okay,
but
all right.
So some people like, all right, let me make they make a bunch of twists out of balloons, or just a handful of twists. They make a triangle that, out of balloons. They make a, whatever the shape, they make a shape out of it. And then like, all right, does that look like anything? And they'll go through them right now. Like for the triangle idea, you make a triangle, then they look through and, all right, what has a triangle? Then they might get on to Phineas and Ferb, if anybody familiar with them. I don't remember which, I think it's a Phineas that has the triangle shaped head. I
believe you're correct.
I could be wrong, so nobody judge me if I made that mistake. But he's got the triangle shaped head, so I might be like, oh well, yeah, all right. But then they build off from there. Other people, kind of make an existing shape. So like I said, a bunny. Like they might make an existing shape, and I've done this before. Make a bunny, and then like, all right, now how can I make this better? And mess around with it, make several designs, tweak this, tweak that, the other thing, and I've done this before, and I made a design. I'm like, all right, that's horrible. All right, made it up. That's horrible. That one's horrible too. Then finally, I'm like, I kind of like this one, and then take a little bit of that, and keep working it out.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we looked at like what you like. You really like the creativity. You enjoy working with children. You do that very well. Okay, let's look at the other side of the coin. Okay, there's two sides to every coin. There's obviously a favorite part. Usually that means there's a least favorite part of doing balloon creations.
Definitely. Least favorite part for well, I suppose there's a few different areas to look at for that.
Okay, well, just give us like top two or three.
Well, let me give you. I'll start off with a just a very mild one, like one
Okay.
that it's just like whatever. I can
All right, go ahead.
So for me personally, not all balloon artists do this, but for me, I love taking challenges. I love taking challenges for all right, ask me to make something that I've never made before,
Uh-huh.
and
I would assume that goes into your creativity and, as you
yeah,
mentioned much earlier, your want of a challenge.
absolutely. So I do that a lot,
Okay.
and maybe a third of the time, I don't know. Not all. Some of the time, people will come up with something, and I'm like, oh, I never even thought of making that before, and I love that, and that's what I'm looking for. And occasionally, most a lot of the time, people will like make whatever, and I'm like, oh, well, I've actually done that before, but I got you. And sometimes I'll try to make a better version of that.
Mm-hmm.
But then the one that really kind of gets to me, but I brush it off pretty easily, and I don't know why, but people really want me to make a giraffe. And I'm not saying that people just like giraffes, but it's one of the most recurring things when I ask people to try to challenge me and like, all right, I know. I bet he's never made a giraffe before.
So it's not like it's not necessarily something like horrible. It's just like why is it a giraffe?
Yeah, I know exactly.
It's more of a irritated why.
Exactly, and
Gotcha.
I'm not sure what it is about a giraffe. Giraffe, by the way, is one of I would say like the first 20 creations that most balloon artists learn.
So it'd be along the lines of something like, I bet he's never made a balloon dog before.
Pretty much.
Gotcha.
It's just past the dog, pretty much. And I'm just like, why does that go into everybody's mind?
It's like, what is it about a giraffe that people are like, I bet there's no possible way to make that out of balloons?
Yeah, so at this point, I've come up with like 5 different versions of the giraffe, at least.
Gotcha.
Just to make it more interesting for myself.
All right. So let's get a little bit further into the least favorite part.
All right, so this one is more for restaurants, the restaurant scene.
Okay.
So typically the way a restaurant scene works is you're getting paid something by the restaurant to be there. I mean, not a ton, just a little something to be there. And then each table will give you tips, to pay for their individual balloons.
Gotcha.
So it's not too bad. But some people just assume that you're getting paid like a ton of money to be there. And, which, granted, you are getting paid something to be there. But it's not like I'm getting paid, $100 to be there for the night necessarily. It's different from restaurant to restaurant, but I'm not getting paid a ton. The reason I'm there, the bread and butter is the tips.
Uh-huh.
So some people will do that, but I know for me personally, the restaurants that I go to frequently, sometimes the regulars there were like, "Hey, did that person pay you?" Like
that must be nice having some backup. That's not just like, "Hey, excuse me," like just holding your hand out like that awkward bellboy in the movies. Which, no offense to bellboys, but that's just what they are in the movies. The bellboys just standing there, just like the person's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, just waiting.
There has been once or twice where one of the regulars actually did like, hey, make sure you pay him. Like once or twice that has actually happened where they actually told them like, hey, yeah, make sure you pay him. But beyond that, some people, and I'm not like super upset with them, but I'm like, they give me like $1 for a balloon, and then they ask me, and I don't mind like if they just want one balloon and they pay me $1. You know what? I'm totally cool with that. It's the people who pay me $1 or $2. Then they want me to make the world for them. They want me to make like 10 different creations, all really huge ones. And my job is to take care of them. So I'll still make it for them. But
it's kind of like a, come on, man. Like
dude, if you just wanted a dog, yeah, give me $1 and we're cool. But if you're wanting me to make, something really big, you're wanting me to make a bunch of cartoon characters or whatever it is, then come on, help me out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I mean,
that'd be about kind of frustrating. And if you want to go one more layer, I suppose.
Sure. Let's go one more layer.
I think this is about, well, there's one layer beyond that, I suppose. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure how deep we can go.
Well, let's just go to this next one layer, and I think we'll be good for there.
Yeah. So this is working with other entertainers. We'll work with other entertainers / just booking gigs in general, really. It usually doesn't happen too much with other entertainers because they usually know what's going on. I've had it happen once or twice where I'm getting booked by an agent or another entertainer, and they did this. It mostly happens with people who just book me straight up. And when I tell them how much I charge, they're like, oh, well, I could have my brother do this. I could have my uncle. I got a friend who does balloons. I'm like, but do they do balloons like I do them? Or do they just know how to make a dog and a sword?
The undercut.
Oh, yeah. They want me to do it for like $15 an hour. And I'm like, no, that's not what the going rate is. For me, I charge $100 an hour.
Uh-huh.
And most of the people that I tell that, they're like, all right, cool. Because that's honestly, like, if you're in a big city, that's kind of the low end. I don't live in a huge city. I don't live in, San Diego or LA. If I was in San Diego or LA, or LA, then $100 would be, oh man, that person is kind of new.
Okay.
But
so what would be if you were in like LA, Las Vegas, San Diego, New York, some
well,
like...
I can't speak about New York because that's,
Okay. All right. That's fair. So like, all right, if you're in a bigger city over here, what would your rate look like?
So for me, that would probably be about $150 an hour.
Okay.
The really high end people, are somewhere between, or up to $200 and $250 an hour for a balloon artist in LA.
Okay.
I'm not going to presume that I would be that much necessarily, but I'd be around 150, maybe even 175.
Gotcha.
I don't do that area very much, so.
Uh-huh. That's fair. I'm just curious for people like me that I have no idea what that looks like.
Sure. Yeah, and I can't speak for New York because I was just
going like big cities.
Right.
The next one was like Chicago.
Like, well, yeah. Because if you go into another state, it might be different. I can't. Yeah. I can't speak to other states.
That's totally fair. So you like just the undercut of like, my friend can cook a meal. It's like, yes, but you come to this restaurant, pay our prices.
I suppose the other thing that really irks me along those lines,
okay,
with booking people, is I'm like, hey, I got this gig. All right, where is it at? Oh, it's this. All right, cool. That's 20 minutes away from me, no problem. All right, I get the theme, color, all that information I need, and then they tell me the day. Oh, it's tomorrow. And I'm like, come on, like. If you're gonna get a caterer out there, you need to give them more advance. If you're gonna get someone doing decor, you need a more advance. A DJ, more advance. Why do you think that I only need 1 day in advance?
Sure, sure.
I sometimes, I get it. Every once in a while something happens and you need that last minute. Someone drops out. I get that. But for a lot of these people, I can think of 3 off the top of my head occasions where someone called me. I remember even one where he wanted me that day.
That's actually what I was going to ask a question. Like, have you gotten a call for the same day?
And he wanted a huge discount. He wanted me that day. So he called me in the morning and he wanted me that evening. And he wanted a discount, a huge discount. And I'm like, excuse me, that's not how this works.
Yeah. All right. That's interesting. I mean, like, I think pretty much anybody in any industry can kind of feel the undercut, the undersell of like, well, I mean, it's not that great. I shouldn't be paying that much. I feel most people in most industries can understand that.
Yeah,
a little bit like that.
If you don't want to pay that much, if you want to compare me
to your brother,
to your nephew who's just getting into balloons. Go
hire your nephew, and he
like,
can do the thing. If you want somebody, if you're trying to get a professional, pay the professional prices. And I think, like I said, I've heard that in a lot of different industries, from photography and like just also editing, even. Like people like, well, I can do this on my computer. It's like, well, then do it on your computer.
Exactly.
If you want to hire someone to do this for you, they charge a fee usually for a very good reason.
Yeah.
Right. Like I said, I think that's a very understandable.
Yeah, I think those would be my three biggest things.
All right. So this is a little bit different of a question,
Sure.
because that's like, what don't you like? This is, what was harder than you thought it was going to be to do? Like, maybe it was starting the business. Maybe it was like, you said you had videos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what was something that you thought was going to be easier, and you got to it and you're like, all right, well, this is, look, and then you get in and it's a little too hard, not too hard, but harder than you thought.
Sure. I think the first thing chronologically that was harder than I thought was landing a restaurant gig. So getting into a restaurant, when I decided, I'm like, all right, I'm going to get into restaurants. So I was 15, I think, at the time. So my mom had to drive me, and I looked up several different restaurants in town, family friendly stuff. I was like, all right, they might be interested in having a balloon artist.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went out, we hit up, these restaurants, and man, it was hard to find a manager to talk to even. Like, so the first day that I was looking, the closest I was able to get to talking to a manager was one of the managers for this one restaurant was pregnant, and they were really busy. Everybody was busy and didn't even have time for me. This person wanted to talk to me, but they were busy because they were, I forget if they were on their way to hospital or what. I don't remember.
So the closest you got was someone that wished they could have talked to you.
Exactly. And I'm like, come on, just give me 2 seconds.
Yeah. Okay.
So that, that was a lot harder than I thought, just to get that first restaurant.
Okay. What about something a little bit more recently? Just something that you like after you've gotten some more experience. How you've been doing this since you were 14, right? And
yeah.
You're how old right now?
I'm 23.
23. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
So after you've gotten some experience, like something more recent that you're like, this shouldn't be that hard. I've got this. I've got experience under my belt. And then you got there and it was just like, okay, not as much experience as I thought.
As far as experience goes, man, I think the biggest thing there is decor. So some balloon artists are like me. I'm mostly a twister. So I twist creations. And so when people talk about balloon artists, that you need to separate those into two different categories: balloon twisters and balloon decorists or decor artists.
Okay, what exactly is decor? Because we've talked a lot about twisting, apparently.
Oh yeah, because twisting is what I do.
Okay, primarily. So twisting, I'll have to try and specify next time. Sure. So what's a decor artist?
So a decor artist, they primarily use the bigger balloons. So you got the 11-inch rounds, which is 11-inch round is the most common balloon. Like when you think
like a quote unquote normal balloon.
Yeah, when you think of a balloon, like a balloon where you get a balloon with helium, tie it on a string, give it to a kid, that's probably an 11-inch round.
Okay, cool.
So that's 11 inches round. Just to if there was any.
Right. Well, I appreciate the clarification because sometimes things sound very straightforward and they're not. So
yeah.
Okay, so just 11. Like, is that because obviously the normal balloons kind of have like this like teardrop shape?
Yes.
So are you talking about like from the top, like looking down on it, or
they do have a teardrop shape, but if you tie them further down than most people do, it will be a round balloon. Well. Yeah, as round as anything that like that can be.
Interesting. All right. Well,
it's not something that needs to be done very much. So
okay. All right. Cool. So all right. So normal balloons.
Yeah. So they use the normal 11-inch round balloons. They also use bigger balloons than that. Balloons actually go up a lot bigger than most people think. So you got your 3-footers, so 3 feet round. So
are we talking like diameter or
circular?
Like just like you have to hold it, your arms are 3 feet apart. Like
so diameter.
Okay, cool.
So you got your 3-footers, which are fairly. I think 2 years ago they were really popular. The 3-footers were.
Okay.
Then you have all the way up to 6 feet.
That's a big balloon.
I've seen some really cool decor stuff where they literally. I'm not sure if it was 6-footers or 3-footers, but what they did was they basically put them into a pool, and they kind of like were floating in the pool. And I don't think I can describe it very well, but I found it quite fascinating.
Okay. So you said you use mostly round balloons.
Yeah, mostly round. So they do lots of really big things. So whether it be an arch, so they're just the small stuff, the normal, quote normal stuff would be like an archway or a pillar or just a bunch of floating balloons in a line.
Kind of like what you might see at like a wedding or something.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
And it ranges anywhere from there to the very extreme side of things where they're literally making creations, but they're using the round balloons and they're doing really big creations to where basically the balloon turns into like a pixel on a screen, if you can imagine that.
Okay.
So I've seen some pretty crazy stuff. Like the world record back in, I want to say 2005, for the biggest balloon creation was a giant spider.
Guys, if you're scared of spiders, don't go visit it.
Yeah, well, the good thing about balloon creations is they don't last forever.
There you go.
But I've seen people make, I think one of the most common ones, you probably, if you Google giant balloon creations, you might even see this one, is this giant house. And I say giant house because it's both a big house and it's a giant.
A giant's house?
Yeah, a giant's house. And they have the giant looking out the doors or whatever.
That's pretty cool.
So they make some really crazy stuff. Now that stuff I could never.
So
I can't say I never would do, but.
So Decore is more of the large scale. You're not doing this and handing it to kids.
Yeah,
it's the stuff you're doing prepping beforehand.
Those are
it's
photo
decorations
Absolutely.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, decorations.
Okay. And so you said you've done some of that.
Yes. So for me, I haven't done the big creation stuff.
Okay.
I have done the archways and the pillars. Now I haven't done a ton of those. I have done several of them, and most balloon artists, they use a pump to do it. I've done some of them with a pump, and I've done some of them by mouth, which I think if you tell another balloon artist, or a decor artist rather, that I blew up an entire pillar or an archway even by mouth, I don't know if they would believe me.
I imagine that would be quite a feat in lots of air.
It was quite tiring. I will tell you that.
So what exactly was the big challenge when you started doing decor? You said it was harder than you thought. What made it harder?
So I kind of knew what I needed. So my first one that I did, I was like, all right, cool. I kind of knew the basics of making an arch, and I was like, cool. No problem. I can do that. But I didn't realize everything that I needed. There's a lot that goes into an archway. You need a base plate. So the base plate serves two purposes. One, it weighs it down because the balloons are very light. So it weighs it down, makes sure it's not moving back and forth. And it also gives it something to attach to, but it also gives it structure. So it has a base plate and poles. So most archways that you see, there's two basic methods to doing it. And I'm not going to say that there's no other methods because, like I said, it's not my primary thing. The two basic methods is one, there's either a pole going all the way through, and the balloons get wrapped around the pole, essentially.
Okay.
The other one is you got the two base plates, the two weights, rather, and you got string. Now, I'm not just talking any string. I'm talking about really strong, kind of like industrial grade fishing line is basically what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And they use that. Those are the two basic methods.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't realize that I had to have weights. The first time I made it, I didn't really have any weights, and
what happened? I'm curious. What happened to that first arch that you didn't have?
Thankfully, it was indoors, And so what I did was I literally made water balloons. So I took a couple balloons and I filled them up with water to weigh it down. Which, by the way, when you have a 6 foot high, so that means it's about 20 feet long if you laid it out.
Because you bend it.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So about 20 feet of balloons, which they are fairly light, and you can easily pick that up yourself. One cup of water, like, because an 11-inch round balloon filled up with water is maybe a cup of water, because you're not inflating it. Otherwise, if you inflate it, then it'll probably pop.
Gotcha.
And you don't want that to happen. In the middle of your event, people are walking through, then all of it pops and everybody's slipping.
It's a rattle shower surprise.
Exactly. So it didn't weigh it down very much. Thankfully, it was indoors and it didn't have any issues.
Gotcha.
But then going forward, I was like, okay, man, this is something I need to think about.
All right. Interesting. All right. So I like flipping this back over the other way. Give me one example of something that was just way easier than you thought it was going to be, that you thought was just going to be this difficult thing, and you got in, it's like, oh, wait, that was it?
So I remember for one of my birthdays, one of my older brothers, James, he decided he was gonna be really cool. He was gonna help me out. He said that he was gonna buy me some tutorials. So for balloon artists, they make a lot of tutorials. Some of them are free, and you can find a lot of those on YouTube. If you look at balloon tutorials, I even make those on YouTube. It's, by the way, for those listening, it's Never Bored on YouTube, just Never Bored.
Okay.
You can find that channel. So there's a lot of balloon artists on YouTube making tutorials. Those are all free. Balloon artist community is a very sharing community. There's a lot of forums, like I referred to earlier. But then for some of the bigger stuff, they do a lot of paid tutorials. So, it's like $5 or $10 for a tutorial where you're going to learn anywhere from 5 to 30 creations.
I was going to say, is that for like one creation? I don't
usually not.
Okay. I was like, I don't know what we're expecting.
Occasionally it will be just to learn one design, which then you have several variations of. And that could, depending on the design, it could be like $30 just for that one design. But most tutorials, I would say, are between $5 to $50, and you're going to learn 5 to 30 creations.
Okay.
And there's obviously more variants.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the Decore stuff because I haven't looked at their tutorials. I'm not sure how much they cost.
Okay.
But he was going to buy me one. So I went on to one of the websites that I go to, Balloon-Animals. They have a forum there. They have a store where they sell tutorials. So I was looking through, and I was watching the previews for the tutorials. Trying to decide which one would benefit me the most. And this is when I learned that I was somewhat unique in the balloon community, anyways, because I would watch the previews, and I'd be like, all right, I don't need to buy this. I know how to make it. Because
you can build things
so
in
I
your
can
imagination.
reverse engineer things very well.
All you have to do is see a picture of it, and it's like, oh yeah, that's easy.
Well, yeah, exactly. I would see the picture, and I'd be like, oh, well, he obviously did this, that, and the other thing. This is how he made the creation. So I watched several tutorials, and I watched the previews for all the different tutorials that looked interesting to me. And I was like, I pretty much know how to make that. So he ended up not buying me a tutorial. He ended up buying me some white paint markers, which is kind of like a Sharpie.
Okay.
It's something that I use for balloons as well. He ended up buying me that instead.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so that's when I learned. And I talked to other balloon artists on forums and stuff, and I see like someone will post a picture of something that they made, and half the comments are, man, how did you make that? Please make a tutorial. And I'm like, but they did this, that, the other thing. Like, I'm looking at the picture.
For you can see the elements that went into it pretty easily, and it's just easy for you to reverse engineer. I guess that's nice, being able to just see something and be able to recreate it.
Yeah, so that's probably one of the things that turned out to be fairly easy for me.
All right. So I got a question. If you could just sit down with anybody and everybody that wanted to either get a balloon artist, or you specifically, either or, maybe it applies to both, and just explain to them one thing that people just don't understand, and you just wish you could just like impart this knowledge to them directly, just like, hey, blank, what would it be?
Huh. I suppose one thing that I might say is, hey, keep your balloons off the grass. The grass will pop the balloons.
Okay, hold on. So this is something that happens often.
So if it's an outdoor event, it usually isn't too bad, but there's that one kid who's going to take their balloon, usually a sword, and they're going to go fight the grass. And then they're going to come back and get another one. Now, I don't necessarily mind that too much, but if they're popping it on purpose, then I kind of mind a little bit.
Okay.
Like there was one event I can think of specifically where this kid would come get a balloon sword, pop it on the grass, come back and get another one. But the parent was very, very cool about it, and they paid for it every time. They didn't ask for a free one.
That's nice.
They understood, and their child wasn't like necessarily trying to pop them. The child was like 4 or 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He was having fun. He wasn't trying to do anything terrible. But sometimes at parties, there's this one kid who intentionally pops on the grass or steps on it, and then wants you to make another one. But a lot of people don't realize the grass is going to pop the balloon.
So it'd be a combination of like, hey, balloons pop easily on grass, and also they aren't just free.
Yeah.
Like, don't just keep expecting more free balloons just because yours are broke.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure there's something else, but I can't think of anything else.
I feel like there's always something that we wish we could tell clients or patrons or whatever.
Yeah,
just like, hey, can you just... All right. Well, thank you very much, Ben, for joining me on today's show. If people want to find you, where should they go?
Well, the best place to find me is actually on Instagram. It's Ben Circo Balloons.
Okay.
Ben_Circo_balloons.
Gotcha.
You can also find me on TikTok, which is at Ben Circo, or YouTube, which is one of my favorite platforms right now, which is Never Bored. Just one word, Never Bored. And if you want to send me an email for a booking or something like that, you can send it to Circo Magic and Balloons. That's all one thing. Circo Magic and Balloons at yahoo.com, or my brand new website, which is neverboredentertainment.com. So brand new, just getting that up and running right now, in fact.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode. If you guys have suggestions for future interviews and questions for those interviewees, hit me up on my Twitter at Joel Circo. Just send me what you guys are thinking. Let me know what you guys want, and we'll get that to you. Well, thank you again, Ben, for joining me on my show.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been a whole lot of fun, I gotta admit.
And listeners, I will catch you guys on the next episode. I hope you all enjoyed that. If you did, please let me know. If you didn't, please also let me know. You can hit me up on Twitter at Joel Circo. You can also find me on Instagram at CuriousJoelCast. And you can also email me at CuriousJoelCast@gmail.com. As always, a big shout out to Milana Dodd. She is the one that did my amazing cover art. So please go check her out on her website at milanadodd.com. You can also, from there, can check out her Instagram. A lot of amazing stuff. Also, go check out DecemberNoelPhotography.com, and you can see some amazing photos there. You can also check out December's Instagram at DecemberNoelPhoto. She's doing a picture a day challenge for this year, I guess. So go check out all her photos there. She's doing some amazing stuff there. Check out Braden Slen's YouTube channel. It is called The Coaster Gnome, and he has a few series on there. I'm on one of his series called Zero Credits and Counting, where he takes people that are not as enthusiastic about roller coasters and talks to them about their favorite roller coaster. So go check that out as well. If you guys would, I would really appreciate it if you took a moment to just rate this podcast. That helps more people see it in general. Also, sharing this episode and this podcast with your friends that you think would enjoy it, it really helps me grow a lot. So please, if you would, rate and share this with someone else. As always, thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you all on the next episode.